It is week 2 of dumpling school, and I have to apologize right off the bat because this week we are not actually making dumplings. We're making something that's even more important, something that goes with just about any dumpling you're ever likely to have. It's a red chili oil. So chili oil is something that's really important for dumplings, no matter where they're from in China or around the world, because it goes with just about all of them. It's really simple to make them. There's lots of variations in chili oils, but I'm going to show you kind of the most basic recipe, not the most basic, but the one that I make all the time. And then I'll tell you how to make some of the variations on that. With chili oils, there's really 3 main areas you have to think about, of course, aside from the oil. You've got your hard aromatics, and here for my basic chili oil, I've got 4 different kinds here. I've got some cassia bark, very similar in fragrance to cinnamon, some bay leaf, star anise, and then these you might not have seen before, very popular ingredient in Western and Southern China. It's called, in English, I think, black cardamom. It has a kind of an earthy aroma, but also a little bit almost meaty in a way. It's a very strange ingredient, but worth getting your hands on because it adds such a lot of flavor to a chili oil or even a braised dish. This is often used for braising when you get out sort of southwestern China way. What I'm going to do with these is not very much at all. The hard spices just stay as they are. This black cardamom, I'm just going to crush it because inside there's a whole lot of other seeds that actually have quite a lot of flavor as well. Of course, you can add other ingredients to this. You can add sesame seeds, you can add Sichuan peppercorn, obviously very popular in Sichuan style chili oils. But for me, that's what I'm doing with my hard aromatics. Bay leaf, star anise, cassia, and also that black cardamom. Now for my, I guess, wet aromatics, I've got spring onions, ginger, and some red onion as well. I'm just gonna cut those up. Again, you could use things like garlic in there. I find garlic probably best left out of a lot of chili oils, but you can include it, of course, as well. And for the spring onion, just take off the roots and cut it into some quite decent lengths all the way up, except for those very end straggly bits. And then, of course, you've got your chili. This is Chinese chili flakes. There's a bit of a difference. I wouldn't use your regular chili flakes that you would get more in a Western supermarket because firstly, you can tell the color of this is very different. You want a bright red chili. And quite often the Western chilies, they become a little bit darker and they also become, I guess, a little bit less chili flavor. This is gonna be hot, don't worry about that. But it's less about the heat of the chili and more about the flavor. You know, quite often in China, they'll use different varieties of chilies for color, for flavor, for heat, and kind of blend them to get it just right. I'm not gonna show you a blend of different chilies now because they're very hard to get outside of certain areas in China, but you could use, say, a mixture of this and Korean chili powder, which I think is really good because Korean chili powder can be quite mild, and that's gonna be our chili later. I've got my oil already over on the stove, and I'm using canola oil. And the first thing you've got to do is cook our hard and soft aromatics. I've got about 1 litre of canola oil here, and that is probably the modern equivalent of rapeseed oil that might have been more traditionally used in Chinese cooking. And the whole idea is just to infuse the flavor of these aromatics into the oil. I'll bring the oil up to just before the smoking point, so a little bit north of 200 degrees, maybe 210 degrees or so, and then in with the hard aromatics. Then the wet or soft aromatics. And I'll keep cooking that, stirring it just occasionally until all of these aromatics kind of dry up. The hard ones are already dry, but it's when these wet aromatics are giving off their liquid that they'll be infusing into the oil. You actually don't want a lot of liquid in the oil that would come out of those aromatics because that'll make it cloudy. You gotta look for this point where the onions are starting to turn quite brown. So I can turn off the heat and get those out. The fragrance of this oil now is just sensational. I'll take it back over and finish it off. Now I've let the fragrant oil stand for about 10 minutes. So the temperature of this has dropped right down. We're about 120, 130 degrees now, and that's what we want. Now with this chili, I want to dump it all in at once. You don't want to sort of shake it in a little bit at a time because then the first chilies that go in there, they're gonna burn in that large volume of hot oil. Dump it in, give it a good stir, and then let it stand for about an hour, just stirring it maybe once or twice over that time. After that stood for about an hour and the chili flavour's infused, I'll just put that into a jar, and that is our red chili oil.